So finally, horror fans, it is me, the Horror Miser Monty G. Sorry, had a little technical difficulties there, but we are now live right now. I have my good friend Joe, the Horror Man,
Hey, everybody.
and of course my good friend Jason from Horrific Nightmares JM, and of course we
Hey
got our
everyone.
got a good friend Brad is in the chat. I figured he would be in here for this particular stream. Nice to see you, Brad, and of course my good friend Russell, he's in the chat as well. As well, that's right. Please hit that button right there. If you have not subscribed to the Horror Man or Jason's channel, there are links in the description box so that we can describe to them. This is the Positive Spin live stream because how long has this been since our credit? Almost over a year, right?
Almost. We're getting there, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there. It was around Father's Day last year.
Yeah.
I actually find it interesting that you guys came up with this particular film series. Whose idea was it? Was it you, Joe's, or did y'all just come up with it together?
Joe, you want to take this one?
I don't remember. How did we come up with it?
Well, we kind of came up with it together because we got tired of people being salty towards every movie. It seemed like everyone was tearing movies apart just to get views or, and I know this for a fact because I know some people on YouTube that actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been stated to me that, it gets me more views to trash a movie, even though I may not feel that way.
Yeah, it was sort of a way to combat the negativity. You know, again, we tried to explain a lot in our early Positive Spin videos. They're not meant to be reviews, so just because we're only saying positive things, it doesn't mean we couldn't find negative things if we wanted to, but there are enough people saying negative things about these movies that we chose to just focus on the positive.
Right. And even picking movies that we don't particularly care for as well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because as I was talking to Joe before we came on live, when it comes to movies, though, I never use the word hate. I don't hate on movies because hate is such a strong word. I mean, yeah, there's movies we don't like. There's bad horror movies. Most people know some of the bad movies I really don't like at all. But I never use the word hate. But I can see where your understanding is because a lot of people, for some reason, just simply hate on movies. Mainly, and I think sometimes they don't even see the movie. They just hate on it because they think that's when they get in the views and all that other stuff. It's like, dude, if you're going to hate on the movie, at least watch the movie first and then give your opinion. Because then again, that means you're not being honest. And, one of the things when I created my YouTube channel is like, look, I'm going to be honest to my subscribers and I'm not going to give them a bunch of hee-haw. This is my honest opinion. I saw the movie and this is what I thought about it.
Right. And one of the things I wanted to expand on is that we're also talking about independent versus mainstream. And one of the things I've noticed is that, like when we did Wild Eye Week last year, you would give your honest opinion whether or not you liked a particular Wild Eye movie, but you also stress that it was low budget. So you have to you can't judge low budget the same way you judge mainstream films. You just can't.
Yeah,
there's a big
exactly. It'd be like putting, in a high school football player on the field with NFL players. You're not going to judge them. I mean, obviously the NFL players are going to have an advantage there. It's just, but some people do that. And I agree with what was said. Sometimes people don't even watch these movies. And I know that for a fact because there have been countless movies I've reviewed because of screening copies. So the movies haven't even been released yet. And I have people coming on, bashing movies. And then when I try to converse with them about what it is they don't like, they have nothing to really offer up. They have no reason because they haven't seen it yet. It's just people love to get the likes, the thumbs up, the views.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, that's not to cut you off, Jason. That's why I admire Brad so much because when Brad said he hates a movie, he'll tell you the reason why he hates it.
He hates a movie. That's true. But on his defense, I will say one thing that really surprised me is last year he was like, you want to watch a movie? And I said, sure. What do you want to watch? He said, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Ooh.
I said, okay. We all know how you feel about that one.
Yeah, we all know. Yeah.
Right? But he was willing to sit down and give it another try and see, because another example is Seed of Chucky.
Mm-hmm.
The three of us are not that fond of Seed of Chucky, but I realized when I watched it with him, I had a lot more fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what he was trying to do, is to see that if he watched TCM2 with me, if he would like it more because we had more fun. And about 3/4 of the way through the movie, he was like, nope, still hate it. Nope.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I can't really say anything because you gave it another shot. And I sat there and watched it with you. So
Well, that brings up another good point, and that's Jason and I, when we watch a lot of movies together, because we realize sometimes when we don't like a movie, particularly a lot, sometimes we are able to point out things that maybe the other person missed while we're watching them.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely helps certain movies to watch with somebody else. Like, I can't imagine really doing this positive spin series like by myself. I don't think it would be.
Wouldn't benefit much if you just did it by yourself, because you just
exactly.
That's why I really like the fact that you did it together, and the fact that sometimes you agree with each other and sometimes you don't.
Right.
And sometimes you don't, because just like the positive spin you gave, what's the I forgot the damn movie you did already.
April Fools?
Yeah, April Fools. You didn't like the film, but you still gave what you thought about the film. Okay, this is what I liked about the film, even though I still didn't like it altogether.
Like Black Christmas 2019.
Yeah.
Same thing.
That was a tough one. That was a tough one for me and Joe especially, because it's very hard to. I mean, there is stuff I liked about it, but it's few and far between. It really is.
But that's the point too, is that our point is, even if it's a movie we do not like, we're still able to find positives in these movies, whereas other people talk about certain movies as if there's not a positive to be found. And that's what drives me crazy sometimes, because it's like, come on, for the most part, you can't find a good performance or a good shot in the movie or a good song in the soundtrack. I mean, there's got to be something. You know?
What was funny? What was funny is that somebody commented on one of my, and I can't remember if it was April Fools or one of the other ones, but I said I liked the font of the title of the thing.
Oh yes, yeah.
And the person said, "Wow, the font! I never heard anyone say that before." I liked it, and I'm going to point it out.
There's some interesting ways. Some ways you can get people to get ready for a film is how they make the font.
Yeah,
I mean, that can actually catch your attention.
Yep.
I would say the first thing I got to talk about this, and that's the monsters. And I know both you, and especially you, Jason, you really love the monster film.
I do.
And what is it about the monsters that you truly enjoyed about it? Because I really wanted to watch the monsters, because I grew up watching the monsters back when I was growing up, and I really wanted to watch, and I thought Rob Zombie would try to do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
But, I just tell me what you thought about it, and I'll give you my opinions about what I liked, what I didn't like about the film.
Well, before Jason goes into that, I can tell you, for one thing, we're definitely going to be doing a positive spin on that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I knew you are.
So that'll definitely be coming up, but go ahead.
And we're going to do something else on it, too, that we discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like you, Monty, because we're around the same age, I think. I grew up watching them, too.
Yeah. I'll be 60 in August.
I'll be 52 in July, so we're not that far off.
Not that far off. We're still 70 kids.
Yeah, exactly. So I loved the Munsters growing up. I thought they were great. It was sillier to me than the Addams Family. That's why I liked them a lot more. For me, it was sillier. And I thought that he captured it perfectly. Not only the essence of Herman Munster, because that guy did a really good job. I don't know how many videos he watched on the mannerisms of Herman Munster, but Joe probably knows his name. I'm bad with names.
Jeff Daniel Phillips.
Yeah,
Jeff Daniel Phillips. Yeah,
but he did a fantastic job. I thought Sherry Moon Zombie did a really good job with Lily, and everybody else did a great job. The set design was beautiful. All the colors are beautiful, and that actually is kind of lends itself to another thing we're going to be doing with it. You don't care if we say anything, do you, Joe?
No.
Okay. We're actually going to watch it in black and white and judge it on its merits in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know I'm still going to love the film because I love the set designs. But a lot of things you get distracted by with the Munsters is the pretty colors.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to watch it in black and white and kind of dissect it that way as well.
I think what helps for me, and Jason and I talk about this when we watch movies, especially when we watch sequels and remakes for positive spin, and then something like The Munsters, I think would count in that because it's sort of remaking a classic TV show. Is that I really like to watch movies as if they are just the movie, like there's no connection to anything else. So think like as I'm watching The Munsters, I'm not thinking of the Munsters TV show. As I'm watching a remake of Friday the 13th or A Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever, I'm not trying to think of the original. And I know a lot of people tend to do that because it's just natural. But especially when we're doing positive spin, I try to base my opinion just based on the merits of that movie as, a singular movie. So for me, watching The Munsters, I mean, the set design is some of my favorite set designs in recent memory. And it just hooked me in. I just had a lot of fun with it. Entertainment value is number one on my list. If I'm entertained, I'm happy.
And rewatchability too.
And that's exactly it. So, as much as I do like comparing it to the classic show, because I also loved the show growing up, I kind of view it just as a singular movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can see Rob Zombie's love for the monsters and how he filmed it, because I like the set designs. I like the color aspects of the film. Kind of looks like comic book like color, how he puts the colors in. My main problem with the film, and this is a problem I have with Rob Zombie, he should not write. He needs to get a screenwriter to do his projects, especially for a comedy. And that's the problem I have with the monsters. I really didn't find anything funny. And no fault on Sherry Moon Zombies on her part, but he should have got an actress that's more into comedy than to put her in the film. And I don't know why. And it's not a knock against her abilities to act, but I would like to see her in a film not done by her husband.
You know what? I agree to a certain extent. But I do feel that if you watch like The Lords of Salem, she blew me away in that movie.
Yeah, and
some of her other movies aren't exactly necessarily my taste as far as her acting goes, but I think Three from Hell and Lords of Salem, she really shined. She really did.
And that's the thing with her. I think her talent shines when you do compare movies with her, because if you look at her in The Lords of Salem, but then you look at her in The Munsters, it's like, okay, she definitely has. I mean, she's on opposite ends of the spectrum in those two.
Yeah, those are totally different, different type of tones.
Exactly, and it shows that she can pull off both, even though she may not be the Lily Munster that people wanted to see.
Yeah,
I feel like she portrays a way different sort of character than she does in some of her other movies, and I appreciate that about her. She definitely has that versatility.
Oh yeah, this is not baby Firefly. This is not the character in the Lords of Salem. It's definitely not the character in 31. So at least she sort of has the range. But again, I would like to see her do something not a film not done by her husband.
I actually would too. Just to see her be able to stretch out a little bit, And I think she's got talent. I really do. And I didn't think that way a long time ago, but I do now.
Yeah. And I will give David credit, because you are not going to do anything what Fred Gwynn did as playing Herman Monster. So I'm glad he did not try to imitate him.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there was a running joke that just got on my nerve. It was funny the first couple of times, because obviously when they created the brain, I'm pretty sure most people, we're going to do some spoilers here just to let Warren P. If you haven't seen it, we're doing some spoilers here. And I think they put a bad comic brain into his brain. So he told a bunch of bad jokes. It was funny the first couple of times, but that became a running joke. And it's like, and when it comes to comedy for me, because my comedy is very different as opposed to other people, one or two times it's funny, it's good enough, but you're going to repeat it, and then you're going to lose me.
Yeah. Okay.
But the actor who played Grandpa, I thought he was the best one. He did a fantastic.
He did a great job.
Oh yeah, Daniel Roebuck, he was great.
Yeah. Yeah, he did a great job.
So, how do you guys pick the movies that you're going to do a positive spin on?
I'm laughing because I'm looking at a stack. I'm looking at two stacks right there of all movies that we're going to be doing. They're taking up my living room. So
I got a stack of whole movies I get from Horror Pack.
We had a list of movies that we still haven't even completed when we first developed the series. So when we first said, "Oh, you know what, we should do this positive spin series," we came up with the idea, and then we came up with a list of, geez, who knows how many movies are on that list?
Probably 200 movies, I would say.
And as we've gone along, we haven't even gotten through all of them, obviously, because we find other ones that we want to do first.
Yeah.
So it just keeps extending. Like, for example, we want to get to some that are universally hated too. You know, we try to do some obscure ones sometimes. Sometimes we do some more mainstream, like The Godfather Part 3, for example. It's a universally hated movie. I personally love it.
I do too.
It's the one that we're going to do. You know, Batman and Robin is another movie that people hate. It's another one that we're going to be doing. But we just haven't gotten to them yet because it's based on our mood.
Yeah.
And we film so far in advance. I mean, Jason and I have our 12 Days of Christmas videos done right now.
Yeah.
So we literally have positive spins done, you know, almost throughout the rest of the year. So it just depends on our mood, what we feel like watching.
And we do try to space them out a little bit differently. Like, say, if there are some from the same year, we won't put them in the same month. Or if there are some that are too similar, or if we try to spread it out a little bit to where there's like maybe a non-horror in the month somewhere. There is actually a method to the madness, but you know, inevitably it's just what we feel like doing, like Joe said.
Jason, I don't think you're gonna mind. I'm gonna spoil this because Eric just said we got to do Super Mario Brothers from '93. Eric, tune in at midnight because it is our positive spin tomorrow. Is Super Mario Brothers because we did it to so that's another way we decide. We did it to coincide with the release of the new Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yep.
So we said, you know what, we got to do Super Mario now because the new movie came out.
Yep.
So that's tomorrow is going to be Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, you made Eric happy.
that movie, and that was a first time watch for me. I'd never seen it because
you never saw that?
I was kind of past that age where I wanted to see more horror movies. And movies that were from around that time, like Dick Tracy and
watch your mouth.
I know. And Super Mario Bros. Now I did see Dick Tracy and I really liked it, but I like Super Mario Brothers, the Batman movies, the ones with the humongous sets and stuff like that. I'm not going to tell you what I said in my positive spin, but I did miss some of those films initially. So watching it for the first time now, I think it helped my perspective when I did a positive spin on it. Now, Joe's seen that movie so many times, it's not funny.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. When we watch films together, we message back and forth. So he gives me information on movies that he knows a lot about. I give him information on movies that I know a lot about. And it kind of helps. It's almost like taking a tour through the film while you're watching it and taking everything down at the same time, if that makes any sense.
When we watch movies together, we literally watch them together. Like we don't say like, "Hey, watch this tonight," and I will too, and then talk about it later. We're literally chatting through, you know, Messenger as we're watching them together. Yeah. So it's like we're watching them together live,
almost like a watch party.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because Trip and I, we do that a lot because we did that with Altered States, and we also did that with Deep Rising. Because I think it was her first time watching Altered States, and you know, so she got to see one of the trippiest movies. I still call that one of the trippiest movies of all time.
I need to go back and watch that because that was one I wasn't as fond of the first time. Believe it or not, the first time I watched it, I was like, eh. So, but you know, that was when I was really young, and my whole horror landscape has changed from when I was younger till now.
Yeah, mine has stayed the same since I was young and up until now. I mean, obviously I have a better understanding of movies back when I was young, but it's still the same. It really hasn't changed. Yeah, it really hasn't changed that much. I mean, like I said,
I hated comedy and horror. I hated comedy and horror.
It's that's the one of the hardest things to do is
Yeah.
horror and comedy, because you have to decide whether you're going to be serious but have some laughs in it, or you're going to
Right.
just going to be over the top. Like
Yeah.
you can be over the top like Dead Alive,
Yeah.
or you can be kind of serious like Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead, or even the Evil Dead. I don't know whether the Evil Dead or the Evil Dead 2, which the
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2, it was much more of a horror comedy,
Yeah.
but it still has serious moments in it. And then especially with Army of Darkness,
Oh yeah.
that's definitely a combination of both. It's funny and you have some serious moments in it, but you really have to balance those two out. That's why horror comedies are so hard, especially for me, because my comedy is very way out there. It's like for me, um, the funniest movie I will always be for me is Trading Places. I always find I still laugh at that film.
So
It's
do
just
I.
so
So
funny.
do I.
That's why I find it funny. It's so hard for me, and just like Gary said, comedy is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's so subjective. Yeah, it is. Because what I find funny, most people might not find funny.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Eric, we do take into consideration what people like and what they request, because actually Monty asked us to do Jeepers Creepers Reborn, which will be coming up. We did Jason Goes to Hell, not only for me, but we knew that you liked it. And, I think a 80s horror fan requested Season of the Witch with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
So that's going to be coming up eventually. So, if you guys go on there and make suggestions, if we have them, if we think that they're warranted, we'll do them. So
I cannot wait to hear if there's anything positive about Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
Yeah, I'll leave it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't say anything. Don't ruin it.
Jeepers.
It is not a very well received movie at all.
The only thing I'll say about Jeepers Creepers Reborn, because I don't want to spoil anything, is that when I reviewed it initially, and this was one of those movies I reviewed as a screener, so people hadn't even seen the thing yet.
Mhm.
I literally had to take that video down because people were, no joke, people literally told me I should die because I was saying positive things about the movie.
Yeah.
I talked about how
that's sad.
I talked about how my son and I both enjoyed, a lot of different things about it. And literally people were saying that we didn't deserve to live because we liked Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
Yep.
Oh man, that's sad. Man, that's terrible.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
That's
insane.
I said to my even when I reviewed it, I said somebody is going to like this film.
Yeah.
Even though and if they like it, that's good. Because even I said, if anyone likes this film, please tell me what you like about it.
You'll hear it.
And I definitely will hear it too. Yeah. But just to say that, oh man, I feel sorry. It's just as bad as when Halloween Kills came out. No, it was Halloween Kills, and all the flack they got that pissed off Christian so much he refused to talk about it anymore because of all the craziness. And I felt sorry for him that he got attacked by the fanboys.
Halloween Ends the same way, and that's kind of what cemented this series in for Joe and I, because I think a lot of that movie, I know Joe does, you'll be seeing a positive spin come up for that in October. And I mean, I literally sat there for half a day, and Joe knows this because I was complaining, watching people's rants about Halloween Ends. Just because they didn't get what they wanted, they're spouting everything that they didn't like about the movie, and none of it had merit.
No, because I understand some people's critique of the movie, and I accepted that. But if you
right,
and just like I said, when I saw the marketing on the film, and I said, wait a minute, that's not going to happen. They're trying to get you to watch the film, and they know that people want to see that final battle between Laurie and Michael.
Right.
But then when you have to take a look at how old both of those characters are.
There you go. There you go.
And the fact that Michael got his ass kicked for the first time at Halloween Kills.
Yep.
And he's still recovering. So it's not I mean, I like the fight. They did what they had to do. But the fact that there was a lot of people expecting this so-called, it's like, wait a minute, what you guys? I just couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
And also people are thinking of Michael throughout like all of these different films when in actuality this is a new timeline.
Yes.
So we haven't seen Michael be invincible really. We've only seen him in the original. We've seen him in Halloween 2018 at this point, and then Kills where he gets his ass kicked, like you said. So then Ends, yes, this is the first time we're going to see him in that sort of state. But my issue isn't even with people not liking films or even hating films. The problem I have is when people hate films and they want you to hate them too. And if you don't, it's like you're an idiot for not hating them too. I don't understand why people have such a passion to actively want to spew their hate. So it's like, shouldn't it be a good thing when people like horror movie? Because then we're going to get more.
Yep.
Like, why would you want me to not like a movie? How does that affect you whatsoever?
Yeah.
I'm not telling people they have to like movies. I'm just telling people why I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this. You like this particular film. I'm happy for you. I'm glad somebody liked it.
Exactly.
It's like I know, like The Apparition, one of the worst horror films I saw the year to come out. If somebody liked it, I'm like, I'm glad you liked it. I didn't.
I liked it. I think that might be on our list too.
Yeah,
because that got a lot of flack.
Yeah. One of the films that I want to talk about that you did, obviously, is Ghostbusters 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, and we all know the hate. I mean, the other hate that film got out. I mean, even before the trailer came out.
Yeah,
exactly. See, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Hate. I'm like, wait a minute, you guys, you haven't even seen the film. The trailer hasn't come out yet. What are you guys spelling for? And it got to the point where it's almost misogynistic to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why it got all the hate, because you had an all-women cast.
This is a good example because this was a first time watch for me when we did Ghostbusters. And I obviously, like, I'm not somebody who ever says I hate a film, especially if I don't see it. But I had heard so much hate about it, and if I'm being honest, I'm usually not a fan when movies are changed just for the sake of changing them. So, like, let's make an all-female Ghostbusters just because we want to make an all-female Ghostbusters. Doesn't mean I won't give it a chance, but usually I'm already like, oh God, why are they doing that? But going into it, I was like, okay, I'm going to have an open mind. Because everybody else hates it doesn't mean I'm going to, because that's usually not the case. And I have to say, I had a blast with it. I was like, you know what? This feels like a Ghostbusters movie. It's just different Ghostbusters.
Yep.
And, if I'm ranking the Ghostbusters movie, would it be my least favorite? Yes. But it doesn't mean that I dislike it.
Right.
I just love the others more. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Afterlife. But I was a fan of the Ghostbusters 2016, and I was like, are people just not giving it a chance because it's an all-female cast?
When you go in 100%, when you go in 100%, when you're all in and you commit that much hate before you've even seen the film, very hard to turn tail and to change your mind without looking like an asshole. It's just how it is, plain and simple.
Yep.
Nobody wants to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for me, I'm like, why are you guys hating? It's like, and it's not like these any of the ladies are not amateurs. They're all pretty good in their crafts.
Yeah.
In their crafts. And I watched the film. I like most of the film. I thought all the ladies did a pretty good job in their roles. There's some aspects I didn't like. I really didn't like the third act at all. I really didn't like the. I didn't have no problem using the Ghostbuster from the Ghostbuster Lego as the main ghost. I like that. Yeah, I thought the third act was a bit of a downer. But I still enjoyed the film. I was entertained. I thought Chris Hemsworth was pretty good in the film.
Yeah.
He was funny. Yeah, he was funny in that.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a perfect example of movies that we like to do for the series. It's like that was a movie again that got all this hate before people even saw it, and it's like that's a perfect example of the types of movies that we thought of when we developed this series in the first place.
Yep. Well, there was a handful of movies that we went into knowing that we were going to do eventually, like Exorcist 2.
Yeah,
generally a hated film.
That was the second one we did.
Yeah. Hellraiser Revelation. Not so much. Well, I guess Children of the Corn, Genesis, that was pretty much hated. Runaway is really hated, and I have no idea why that's hated, but that's just a different story. But there's these movies that have been stigmatized to be like the worst movies ever. Manos, Hands of Fate.
Oh, and I love that movie.
I do too.
I love Manos is one of
so much fun.
It sounds
It's so much fun, especially I can't. His name escapes me.
Torgo.
Torgo. Oh, yeah, that's my boy. I love Torgo.
Like, it sounds ridiculous, but I was honestly more entertained by that movie than a lot of the other movies we've done for Positive. I had a blast.
Yeah, I mean it's low budget. You know, is not acted very well, but you know, some of that stuff it's just so fun. I mean, I'm highly entertained by Manos and Hands of Fate.
Yep.
And I never understood why they called that one of the worst movies ever made.
It's one of those things where, you know, is it an objectively bad movie? Yeah, but is it entertaining? Absolutely. Yep. So at the end of the day, I'd rather watch an entertaining bad movie than a really well-made boring movie.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, I'd rather be entertained than bored. Sometimes I'd rather take, substance over style.
Yeah. And I agree with Ben. And that's the one thing I really hated about Ken Smith's He-Man. When it came out, all of a sudden people were calling it He-Man's woke and all this other crap. And none of them watched the show. All they wanted to do was talk about how woke it was. And it's like, did you even watch it?
Yeah.
Exactly. How do you know it's woke if you don't watch it? Mm-hmm. They're taking what somebody else said and they're running with it, is basically what it is. And a lot of that happens. I've noticed a lot of that happening on YouTube and chats that I've been involved in and stuff like that.
Now, there's an interesting one that I saw y'all guys do, the Lady in the Water.
Yes.
Yeah, that film, because I finally actually saw that film, and I guess I kind of understand why, because it was a very mythology-based film. Yeah. And I think M. Night Shyamalan did not do a good job in establishing the mythology in the film. I think if he did it better, I understood it, but I think when the way he structured the story, I think that a lot of people just didn't understand the mythology he was trying to go in the film. That's the reason why a lot of people hate on that film.
Well, see, what you just said right there is, again, that's spot on. With a lot of these movies, not even just that. It's that sometimes it's people's own lack of understanding.
Yes.
And then they blame the movie for it. And I understand that, but at the same time, sometimes it's their own fault for not digging deep enough.
Or paying attention.
Even something like Halloween Ends, people want to judge it and all this, instead of looking at what they actually were doing with it. Instead of appreciating what's actually there. And there are literally conversations that have been had with people, and you can clearly see they don't even understand it. And I mean, we're talking about a slasher sequel here. Like, yes, it went deeper into the whole story and what could have made Michael into the way that he is. But it's like, if people don't understand something, their defense mechanism is, oh, I hate this, I don't like it.
Yep.
And I sort of feel like that's what it was with Lady in the Water. They weren't patient enough with it. They didn't sit there and actually pay attention and take in the mythology of it all, because it's all there. But if you're not willing to go into it with an open mind and appreciate the story that's being told, then you're not going to like it. And I can understand that.
Well, it already had a stripe because it wasn't what people wanted.
Yeah.
So I think that's what people really had a problem with the film, is because it's not what I want. It's not Michael living in a sewer, geriatric Michael or whatever. It's
Well, even Lady in the Water.
There is more to the story, though.
Even Lady in the Water, you have Shyamalan coming off of The Sixth Sense and Signs and Unbreakable, and these movies that were well received. So when they saw Lady in the Water, like, well, this is different. I don't like this.
Here's the thing about Lady in the Water. Like you said, I don't think a lot of people understood it, because I feel it was explained perfectly, because you get the story in the beginning.
Yeah, no.
And what you have is you have it leading up to there, and you're kind of wondering what's going on. But then you have the big twist at the end, where everything is explained that you learned earlier in the film. It's like, oh, that's why he's there. Oh, that's what the guy with the one big arm has, and what his purpose was in the film.
Yeah, it's sort of like how the visit is You
Yes,
know,
yes,
once you
yes.
see some aspects of the film, and then once the twist comes about, then it's, oh, now that actually makes
It
those scenes
explains
seem,
everything.
it
Yeah.
things everywhere. Yeah, you
Mhm.
know, but some people's attention spans, they're just not. You know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Um, Prom Night 2008.
Okay.
Yes.
What was really good? Because what was really good about that film? What positive aspects that you got out of that film? Because outside of it, high production value wise, it's for me was, you call this a slasher?
Oh, it was a slasher movie, and it was a damn good one at that. I still hold to that.
I think for me, I'm not a huge fan of the original Prom Night, which is an sort of an oddball for me because I
Hmm.
love 80s slasher films, and
I
Prom
am.
Night has never been one that I've loved. I don't dislike it, it's just very forgettable for me. It's always been that way. So for me, the Prom Night remake, I enjoyed it more than that. Like that to me was like my Prom Night. I mean, I like Hello Mary Lou better than the original Prom Night too. I
Ooh.
just, so the remake, I don't know. I liked the characters. I just really liked the hotel setting, and I thought the killer was pretty good. You know, as far as killers go, if you don't have a good mask on a killer, then the
Hmm.
killer better look menacing.
Yeah,
You know, because if you're gonna have a maskless killer, then there better be something menacing about that killer. And I
yeah,
felt like he did a good job being menacing.
I do too.
I'll give credit for that because he did look menacing,
Hmm.
and I thought Brittany Snow was pretty good in her role.
Yeah.
It's just that as it's supposed to be a slasher and a remake of a classic slasher film of Prom Night, I was not expecting Prom Night. What I was expecting was something on the lines of a decent remake, and then when we got that, I was like, okay, that's not a slasher film to me. You know.
The one thing I will say that Prom Night could have used was Idris Elba coming in earlier in the film because he's a really good actor and he kind of amps up the movie a little bit.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does.
But other than that, I thought the movie was really well done.
Hmm.
I mean, you basically have a guy who is not only menacing, but he can also be charming. When he was talking to the maid out in the hallway and saying that his key isn't working because he had just taken his knife and slashed the key card to mess it all up.
Hmm.
So he's able to get inside these rooms and nobody's even thinking twice about it.
Yeah.
I thought that was very clever. I thought that it being done in a hotel where it's very hard not to be seen, but it's also not hard not to be seen if you know how to go into the hallways when there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been in a lot of hotels in my life, and hotels can be a very lonely, creepy place. And that's one of the things I felt in Prom Night that really worked for the film.
And I think I mentioned this in my video. I like that it works that he doesn't have a mask because if he was
Yes,
wearing a mask, people would be like, "Why is that guy wearing a mask in this hotel?"
Yeah.
right.
Whereas the fact that he's not wearing a mask, you know, it makes sense in that story, in the realm of that story,
Yeah.
because you're not going to think twice about it. You know, just some guy in the hotel.
Yeah. That's. I didn't have a problem with that because he's in the hotel, so wearing a mask would make any sense because
Mm.
he's up to no good. So I really didn't have a problem with that. I think the problem with me for a Prom Night, this
Hey,
particular
Tails.
version was the lack of blood. And
I get that.
and that's
Yeah,
and not the fact that we need blood and gore in order to make a decent horror film. But I was thinking that there was something missing in that particular film. And
okay,
that,
let me ask you a question, Monty.
hmm
Are you a fan of the original Prom Night?
oh yeah, I love
I
the
am as
original.
well.
Hmm.
The original Prom Night, besides the fact that it's way too dark,
Hmm.
because the director didn't know how to light a set,
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that
yeah. 'Cause he,
has probably the least amount of blood other than and I'm going into spoiler territory, everyone who hasn't seen Prom Night, but the beheading at the end where the guy's head rolls onto
yeah. Hmm.
the where they're dancing and everything, it doesn't have a whole lot of blood. So what really
Hmm.
surprised me, I didn't see Prom Night in the theaters, so all I had ever seen before Joe and I decided to tackle this was the unrated cut, which has more blood than the rated
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah.
So to me, I always felt like it had more blood than the original. But I did get the theatrical release of it and I watched it.
Mhm.
And it does have a considerable amount of less blood than the unrated cut.
It's
So,
also one of those things when you grow up watching a movie, your mind kind of adds the blood, or I mean, like let's look at something like Halloween, or even the original The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mhm.
It's literally, and I believe they talk about this in I think it's in like one of Bravo's specials. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. People think of it as like, oh my god, this bloody movie, but there's really not a whole lot
It's
of
not
blood
blood.
in it.
Yeah, it's not blood. It's ultra violent. Because that,
Exactly.
yeah, that came out during the '70s, where you had that film, you had The Hills Have Eyes, you had
Yep.
I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left. It seemed like all these ultra violent films, they weren't bloody, they were just simply ultra violent, and that's
yeah,
what the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was. It wasn't
Yeah.
bloody; it was
Yeah.
just
yeah.
ultra violent.
Yep.
Ben actually made a good point. He said that the actors looked like they were in their 20s, which I don't
Yeah.
agree with, because I think Brittany Snow has played a really good high school character
Mhm.
for a long time. Now, she doesn't in X, but she did back then.
Oh, she definitely does it in X.
Yeah,
Oh
she
yes,
definitely does. But I will say some of the other kids did look a little bit older, but it didn't really take me out of the film. But I mean, he had a good point there.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Uh, this one's pretty interesting. How'd y'all come up with good positive spin with the remake of Psycho?
Mhm.
Okay. This is a good one.
Well, that was one of the ultimate ones. That was one we knew
Yeah.
when we first started the series. We knew we had to get the Psycho remake.
People hate that movie.
Yeah.
Now, again, I didn't hate the film. My whole problem was this: one, I don't like shot for shot remakes. You can do a remake, but why do it shot for shot? You know, try to put your own spin on it. Yeah, you can pay homage to Hitchcock, you can pay homage to Anthony Perkins
Yeah.
and Janet Leigh, but come up with your own ideas. Second problem is, who thought Vince Vaughn was a killer?
My
I know it was.
yeah.
I know it was early in his career,
Yeah.
but
My biggest takeaway from Psycho was that Gus Van Sant originally intended it to be an experiment.
Yeah.
Like he didn't care that it was shot for shot, and even though people say it's shot for shot, he did reverse some shots, which I think is pretty cool. He changed some coloring. He had certain things that were shot from the right in the original were shot from the left in the remake, and he basically did like a different point of view in certain scenes. So I kind of went into it thinking, okay, this was his intention, so I need to watch it with that intention in mind.
Right.
Rather than
Mhm.
going in and looking at this as, okay, this is a shot for shot remake just for the sake of being a shot for shot remake, I was thinking, this is exactly what Gus Van Sant wanted it to be. So
Mhm.
he succeeded in doing what he wanted to do, and that was to just
Right.
experiment with one of his all-time favorite films. And as for Vince Vaughn, it's
Unlawful entry.
Vince, yeah, or domestic disturbance. I loved him in
That's it.
domestic
Domestic
disturbance.
That he was good in that. I
He
liked him,
was
and yeah,
he was
was
so
good.
intimidating in that.
Yeah.
So
He's a big dude.
yeah, and it's one of those things where to me, Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates is maybe my favorite villain of all time. I absolutely love him. He's like a guy that you want to just be friends with.
Yeah.
He's a guy you feel bad for, but at the same time, he's obviously a psycho.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
Anthony Perkins is one of those iconic roles that is really, really hard to even do anything similar to it because you're just not even going to come close.
See, this is a tough one for me because both Joe and I both love the original Psycho so much.
Mhm. So do I.
Because seeing a shot-for-shot remake of it, I thought was very interesting. Now, I will say one thing I didn't care for: the extra scenes thrown in there, the masturbation scene. That didn't do anything for me. I just thought it was completely unnecessary. But watching a shot-for-shot and seeing Psycho as many times as we have, when you're looking at the characters on screen and how they're in the same spots, can you imagine the tediousness that would have been in order to film something like that?
Yeah.
Does it make the film good? No. Does it look like the actors were going through the motions sometimes? Sure. I'm not a big fan of, and Joe knows this, of other actors quoting other people's jargon, like Malcolm McDowell quoting.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I know.
Loomis. Yeah.
It grates under my skin.
Yeah.
But I really thought when you get past the first 10 minutes and you see these characters, then I'm invested in the film. So now I'm not worried about the jargon. Now I'm only worried about what I'm seeing on the screen.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing is basically Psycho in color.
I was going to say it's more of a curiosity for me. Is that it's seeing one of my all-time favorite horror films in color, almost like watching a stage play of it, like these actors reenacting one of my favorite films, and it just happens to be in color this time. And it's kind of like, is it going to compare? Absolutely not. But again, I like to go into these movies watching it as if it only exists in its own world.
Right.
So if I'm watching the Psycho remake, I'm keeping the original Psycho out of my mind as much as humanly possible.
Yeah,
it's hard with that one though.
Yeah, so now I'm just judging it as a movie, and it's close enough to the original that I can at least enjoy it for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I did when I finally saw it. I didn't see it in theaters. I just happened to see it on a VHS tape, and I was looking at the picture, and I just said, "Okay, I'm not going to judge it. Just judging what I'm looking at right now."
Yeah.
And you're right. After the first 10 minutes, you finally get a chance to finally see get the film and see Vince Vaughn's performance. And I agree. I think it was Ben that said that he does not have the boyish charm that Anthony Perkins did in the original.
He doesn't.
He doesn't have that boyish charm. I have no problem with Anne H. She did okay in the films. I have no problem with that. Just that it's one of the and I understand what he was trying to do, but just like Brad said, he tried it and he failed.
Yeah,
I think for me the character that worked the most, and it's a minor character, but it's the cop.
Yes.
He looks so much the same. I mean, it's like spot on. It looks like he went back into the 60s, pulled that actor, and said, "Hey, you're gonna play in my 90s remake here." That scene is really, really well done. And
I agree with you, Brad. Even though you're asking Joe,
I agree. I do agree, Brad. And again, like I said, sometimes it is hard to do that, but that's what I attempt to do when we do these sort of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you too, Brad. Yeah,
especially for positive spin, because if not, it does make it easier to find faults. So obviously, it's not going to compare to these original movies that we love,
right?
But I don't want to limit my enjoyment because I keep thinking about a film that this isn't.
Yes,
and that's what tends to happen for some people, I think.
Yeah, I actually found, and this is one film I actually found interesting because a lot of people does not like the 2005 horror film Venom.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't understand why. I mean, it's like
I loved it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it, and I don't know why people didn't like Venom.
Me neither.
Venom, you got some decent characters in the film. I like how the guy becomes the creature.
Yeah,
and I love the kills. Kills are fantastic in the film.
Yep.
It's sort of like a updated version of Scream. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
And that's one of those movies I definitely wish they could have continued. The intention was to make it into a franchise, and I feel like it had so much potential to become one. It's a shame that it wasn't well received.
That way I can rate the remake on this. And because I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I always try to give the remakes a chance and rate them on its own. And as long as they do, you pay homage to the original, but you get your own story is not the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why I couldn't understand about Venom. I thought it was the final girl was decent. The kid, her boyfriend sacrificed himself so she can still live.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know why people do not like that film.
You have a killer that you could use in a franchise because of the whole supernatural element of it, which I loved. You had good kills in it. You had a great setting in it. You had this originality that people claim that they want, and then they get it, and they're like, "Nah, I want more of the same." And then they get more of the same, and they say, "Nah, I want something original. This has been done too many times." So you really can't make people happy, because I think that movie had a good balance of, like you said, being like a Scream style slasher film, but also it did its own thing.
Yeah.
But people just weren't impressed for some reason.
I know that's what I loved about the film was something totally different that we haven't seen before. Because I'll give writers and filmmakers credit. At least they tried to do something different, and they did it. You know, you have this typical setting. I love the setting. I love the bayou setting.
Yeah, me too.
Voodoo in it. I thought the characters were decent, and the killer was great, and he had some great kills. And it's like, why you? Oh well, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
The only thing I think people complained about, I noticed the one thing I will agree that people complained about was the CGI. It's very of its time. I remember when I saw it back then, I didn't mind it that much. Seeing it now, I was like, ooh, it's a little rough right there. But, you know, the rest of the movie is really good. So it kind of makes up for it.
It's funny. It's one of those things, though, because, you know, you think about older movies, say like stop motion animation and stuff. Okay?
No, I love it.
And you know, exactly. Now we love it. We appreciate it because we grew up with that. It's like, I wonder if years and years from now, people are going to look back at old CGI and think, hey, you know what? I love that because that's how I remember it. You know, it's true, because why not? I mean, you know, you look at some stop motion effects now and it's like, oh, geez, like that looks so fake, but I still love it. So is CGI going to have the same quality years from now?
I don't know, because trust me, I'll watch Clash of the
Titans,
the Titans, the 81 version, before I actually watch the Sam Worthington one.
Yeah,
that's another one that we should do as well, because a lot of people crapped on that one too.
Yeah, trust me. I had no problem with the remake.
Yeah, me neither.
It was okay. It was okay, but you know, I'm a huge Ray Harryhausen fan.
Me too. Me too.
You know, stop motion will always be. I'll always watch the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Sinbad 9, the Tiger, Jason Argonauts.
Yep,
you know,
I just said that.
Yeah,
the Valley of Gwangi.
Yeah,
you know, it's like
100 million years. I can't remember the rest of the name, but with the big Kraken monster that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, here's an example too. Like, picture like A Nightmare on Elm Street, that final scene with the mom getting pulled through the window. Right?
Yeah.
We know how it looks, but that's part of the movie for me. Imagine if they did that in CGI. I wouldn't like it as much. I just wouldn't, because even as fake as it looks, like it's clearly a doll getting pulled through that
door. Yeah.
You know, but still, for me now, that's part of the movie. So if they ever went back and replaced it with CGI, I wouldn't like it.
I mean, that's a prime example, because you see that, and in the remake, it's all CGI. When Connie Britton gets stabbed in the eye by Freddy, and it's all CGI, it looks so phony. It's so phony.
Actually, I like that they changed the ending, because I'm with Joe on that one. That I don't think I would have liked it as much had they used the same ending, only made it into CGI.
And that's what's funny to me, because
it's something a little different with it.
And that's what's funny, because the original Elm Street looks so fake the way that it is.
It does.
And but we watch the new Elm Street, and we think, oh my god, that CGI looks so fake. But it's like, so did the original. And like this is just using what they have now, like of you know, the 2010 Elm Street had CGI to use, so now it just happens to be fake looking CGI. Back in '84, he had a mannequin to use. It just happened to be a fake looking mannequin. So it just works.
Because I actually will find this interesting, because I don't know if some of the millennials have watched any of the Ray Harryhausen films.
Right.
And I would like for them to watch that and compare that to some of the CGI and see if they see what they like better, because that's something I have to challenge some of the millennials to do.
If you get a chance, Monty, check out Toys of Terror.
I might have seen it.
Just to watch. It's a couple years old, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Brad reviewed it last year for 12 Days of Christmas. I reviewed it this year, and it has stop motion animation, but a different kind.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, it's very jarring, but the more I watched it, and the more I saw the toys, how they animated the toys, the more I liked it. And I thought it was really cool looking, but it looks different. Mm. It looks more like a polished stop motion, if that makes any sense. Just watch it. You'll like it.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. Now, this is funny, because y'all just did this one, and I was on Joe's video when he did Child's Play 2019, and I told him the minute that he started talking about it, I hear Jen yelling, not my Chucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, not my Chucky.
Yeah, not my Chucky. Yeah, I mean, it's when Child's Play came, when it was announced they were doing a remake for Child's Play, and I knew it was going to happen because that's what Hollywood does. They're going to remake movies,
Yep.
and of course, a lot of people, started going crazy because Brad Dourif was not going to be in the film, and people started saying, "Not my Chucky, not my Chucky." Hashtag not my Chucky. I said, you haven't seen the film yet.
Exactly.
You haven't seen the film yet. At least the film and see and give it a chance.
That's how stuff like this gets started.
Mm-hmm.
That's what snowballs.
I mean, I remember even when Stephen King's when It 2017 was announced. At first, people were like, "Oh, well, it's not going to be Tim Curry, so I don't know if I'm going to be interested." And people were already starting, and look how successful It Part 1 and Part 2 ended up being.
You know what, though, Joe? They did something very smart. They showed the scene with Georgie on the on the trailer, and you got to see this Pennywise
exactly
and see how fierce he was. And I think everybody just bought into it right then and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to give Bill Skarsgård credit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like this. He was. I mean, Tim Curry was great in the TV version of it.
Mm-hmm.
He played a different type of version of Pennywise, and then Bill Skarsgård, he played his own portrait of his method of Pennywise. And I like both actors in the film, and I definitely love. The only thing I don't like about the original one was that goddamn paper machete spider. God.
And it's another example, like what I said about the Elm Streets. That spider looks pretty bad now. And for me, when I first saw It Part 1, and I know Jason knows this, I don't get me wrong, I love It and It Part 2, but for some reason, the CGI in that first It movie was very distracting to me.
Yeah.
At the end. And all I kept telling myself was like, all right, listen, I dealt with the giant spider in the 1990 version. Let me just get through the CGI in this one. Like, I don't want to fault the film for it, because then I didn't fault the 1990 version for the spider.
Yeah.
So, but same thing. It's like, it's weird how a lot of people don't really seem to care about the CGI in It, but they care about the CGI in like Elm Street and other movies.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm not a huge CGI fan, like, at all. I mean, I'm not even a big fan of Marvel movies because 90% of them are CGI. But for some reason in it really bugged me, and I don't know why.
Yeah, because for me, once the premise of the film came out, and then when I saw it, I was very happy that they decided to go with a different aspect of the Child's Play doll. He's not Chucky.
Yeah.
He's not Chucky. He's Buddy. He is an AI. I thought that was a pretty good way to do a different type of version of Child's Play, and I really did enjoy the film.
Yeah, and that's why I did that video recently, comparing Megan and Child's Play, because for me they had so many similarities. And Megan is this big, people are raving about Megan, and then people were crapping all over Child's Play, and I get it because it's a remake, but when you really look at it again, if you look at it as a singular movie compared to Megan, it's like they have so many similarities.
Yeah.
So
from what I hear, I've never seen
Megan.
It's
strange to me that people are on opposite ends of the spectrum with those two movies. I feel like it's fine if you dislike Child's Play, but if you do, you're probably gonna dislike Megan as well. Whereas I like both of them. I enjoyed both of them. It was just kind of annoying me that people hate Child's Play but love Megan. It's like, Jesus Christ, it's Chucky with a wig. I mean, it's like, it's the same thing.
yeah, that's why I said I even said it. Wow, it's like the female version of the Child's Play doll from 2019. That's what I said. Yeah.
It really is.
But it.
Yeah. Well, we won't say anything else, Chase. I know you haven't seen Megan yet.
I pretty much know what it's about and everything. It's not one that I'm really worried about spoiling, but that's cool.
I mean, you're gonna enjoy it. I know you are.
I know I will,
because you like Child's Play remake, and you're gonna enjoy it. But you're gonna say the same thing. You're gonna say, why don't people like Child's Play if they like this? You're gonna have the same question. I guarantee.
Here's the thing: out of every single positive spin we have done, the only one that I think may not have fit into that category might have been Child's Play, because there are a lot of people out there that really like it.
Well, like I said in my videos, it's actually the third highest rated Child's Play in the franchise.
Yep.
and it's only behind Child's Play and Child's Play 2, and it's only point two behind Child's Play 2.
Yeah.
So it's a very close third place in the entire Child's Play franchise.
Yeah.
So as much as people complain about it, there are obviously a lot more people who like it.
Yeah. Well, it was basically because Jen hated it and Brad hated it, so we were like, we'll do it. We wanted to watch it again, and
Ben, yeah, I watched both versions of Megan. I watched the PG-13 originally, and then I watched the unrated.
There's not much of a difference with the unrated version.
There isn't.
There's not much.
No.
I just put this up there because I wanted to see who.
Wednesday or May. I haven't seen that yet either. I need to watch
Wednesday.
That. I haven't watched it yet. No.
Oh.
Like I said, we've gotten pretty far ahead. So my watches have been. I mean, I've been sick this week, so I haven't really done much. But my watches have been strictly what we've been doing for positive spins and controversial view and
we're gonna be finished. Terror in the Isles. We have 2 videos left for that, and then once that's done, we have a whole new challenge that we've been working on. So.
Yep.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, because I got to come up with another because I've been doing my horror films from the 70s.
I know.
And I got to pick another film. I was thinking about doing Orca.
Yes.
But I might do something else. I haven't decided yet as far as what I do. Might do Orca or I might do I Spit on Your Grave.
Ooh.
Yeah,
you'll be not that it's a big surprise, but you'll be seeing that come up for controversial view, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That held the record for years for the longest race. So it's actually a pretty decent movie. I still haven't seen the sequel yet, Deja Vu, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's like 2.5 hours long. I mean, come on. What are they trying to do? To do a 2.5 hour rape scene or something? Come on, that's just a little too much for me.
Did you see the remake?
Yeah, I have all 3 of them on DVD. I actually like them.
Yeah, I thought that the remake, the rape scene was more brutal than in the original, and you really got to give the actress credit because she's totally nude for about a good 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm pretty sure she was freezing cold at the time when she was filming that.
Yeah,
and I really have to give her credit for all she went through.
Yeah,
boy, those
the revenge was that much sweeter, wasn't it?
The revenge was that much. Ooh, boy,
they upped everything.
Oh yeah, they definitely upped everything.
It was the first one where the guy had the waterboard, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
That was great.
Oh man.
Yep.
Black Christmas 2019. Now here's my thing with Black Christmas. I really didn't mind the film because I thought, this is something totally different. Even though it's like, why are we doing another Black Christmas? We already had a remake of the 2008 Black Christmas.
Right.
I said, all right, no problem. I can understand it. They want to do another Black Christmas for some reason. Because I don't know how much money the 2008 version made, but for some reason, did Blumhouse do this 2019 one?
They did it.
Oh boy.
No. I figured it had to be Jason. He always wanted to do something, and like I said, I really had no problem as far as the premise is concerned and what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah,
but I don't know who these writers, the writers of the film, were.
Yeah,
why are you beating down on your message?
That's exactly it. It's not the movie that I hate. It's really not. Like it had potential to be a good original idea.
Yeah,
I mean, even the opening scene is done well. Like there's scenes in it that are shot well and all this. If they just didn't shove it down our throats, like we got the message in the first 5 minutes, basically. Like after that opening kill, we understand what they're going for, and they were just relentless with it.
Yeah,
and it's so much that it takes you out of the movie that you can't even pay attention to what's actually happening because it's just it wasn't. It almost felt like they weren't even trying to make a movie. They were just trying to make it was like
public service announcement.
Yeah, a publicity stunt or something.
It's like, look, I can't even see a sergeant film, not a PSA.
Exactly. And it's a shame because they had this original idea. I almost wish they remade it like shot for shot and then just did what they wanted to do, because at least we would have had the original. Whereas now we have this movie that I would have liked to have seen, but it's impossible to really get down to the actual story because you're so distracted by everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they can change the name and try to do something similar, just with different actors or actresses or something like that, because they pretty much burned that bridge. That's for sure.
I mean, they could have just called it "Men Are Bad," and that would have been it. But that's it. I mean,
Man Haters Anonymous.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because it was typically just man bashing, and it's almost just as bad as Velma, and I think it was the 8th episode of Velma.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen
that either.
Ooh.
Yeah, nah, not into that.
We talked about that on the last horror hangout when we did animated horror films, and cartoons, and we talked about Velma, and oh boy, and again, I have nothing against Mindy Kaling, but I never saw The Office, I never saw her show. I'm assuming she's probably good at comedy as far as she's been in the business for a while.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know. I think she was trying to outshine Seth MacFarlane when it comes to meta humor.
Oof. Oof.
I don't know why movies and shows try to isolate like a big part of their audience.
Yeah.
It really just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't.
You know, movies have always had messages and underlying, but in subtle ways. Like so many movies nowadays, it's like they just, I don't know. I mean, I think about that movie Bros that came out, and you know, the writer came out and the star of the movie came out and basically told half the country not to go see the movie, and then complained when half the country didn't go see the movie, and then he was complaining that people weren't going to see the movie, but he literally came out and said, "Yo, if you did this and you voted for this person, I don't want you to go see my movie."
Right.
So what did he expect was going to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, why would you isolate the audience? It's marketing 101. You know?
Yeah, and I was actually hoping the film will be somewhat successful, because the first time you actually see a comedy that actually features gay men as the lead, and a sort of romantic comedy with gay men, and I actually want the film to succeed, but no one went to see. But if he actually did that, no wonder the film bombed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. It's the agenda. It's the agenda that kills everything. You can make a movie about certain things, but like Joe said, if you're subtle in the messaging, you know, that's the way it should be. It shouldn't. I mean, I go to movies to escape reality, not to sit there and be preached and beat over the head with a message.
Yeah,
I just can't. I can't do that.
Yeah, because another thing I didn't like about Black Christmas was they stole the scene right out of Exorcist 3.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right.
It's like, you couldn't come up with anything original. You're going to steal one of the best jump scares in horror, and you're going to, and you can't even come. Oh, it was bad enough with the message being, and then you're going to try that scene. It's like, oh, come on, please, guys, come up with something original. That's what we all want.
That movie lost me completely. I mean, I was pretty much gone before that, but when the dude started standing up for himself, with all the man-hating things,
I was gonna say that,
and they just beat him down. I was like, I'm done with this.
It's like my favorite scene of the movie up until that point. It's like, oh my god, good for him. He's finally saying what we're all thinking as we're watching this. And then that was it. They take him right out. I mean, Jason and I both, obviously, you know, we're very flexible. We're very easygoing when it comes to movies. There are not a lot of movies we don't like. So when we dislike a movie as much as we dislike Black Christmas 2019, you know they did something wrong.
Yeah, trust me, because I did not like that. That was one of my worst films of the year.
It's one of the worst films I've ever seen, and that's the whole thing. Is it's not a bad film. It's shot well. It has great potential. Man, that message is it's harsh. Just too much. Way too much.
One of the writers was sexually assaulted 3 weeks before she started writing it. So of course the movie's going to be out the way it's going to.
She should have taken a break then.
Yeah, she should have taken a break. I mean, I feel sorry for her, but
I do too. But
you know,
I can't. I mean, this is for everyone to consume. This isn't just your your personal stuff.
It goes in, without going into spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen like Last Night in Soho. So I did a review of that.
Oh boy,
I watched that.
Yes.
I watched, no, but it's actually a positive for it, because when I'm watching it the second time, it proves how it can be done, how it can kind of set that same message, but also show the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So like what we're saying right now, the writer being sexually assaulted, that sucks. That's awful. But she should have taken a break, because number one, like Last Night in Soho proves, you can't blame all men for what one man or a couple of men have done. That's just not, it's just not right. Like I say in my new video, that's like one dog bites you and for the rest of your life, you hate all dogs. Like, yes, it might be a normal, natural reaction at some point, but it's also not a fear reaction.
Yeah.
You can't blame all men for the men that are bad. You can't blame all women for the women that are bad, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So to come out and make a movie that's basically like, all men are terrible and making all these men look bad in this movie because you had a bad experience, that's a very self-centered way to live your life.
It's called bringing your personal life to work.
That's not that's not helping anybody. I mean, you're just so self-involved that you're bringing everything else down with it. I mean, that's horrible.
Amen.
Yeah, no, and I did enjoy Last Night in Soho. I thought it was a decent film.
Me too.
Yeah.
Decent film, and just like I told you when I commented on the film, when I saw Diana Rigg, I was like, wow, because at first I didn't know she was starring in the film, and then when I saw her name in the credit, I said, wow.
Especially considering how the movie ends, it's like, whoa, that's awesome. That's a great way, great way for her to go out.
Yeah.
One of the last movies I have on my list here is called the 2000 remake of The Fog.
That was the first one we did.
First one we did, yeah.
First one we did.
Now, and again, no problem with remakes. Everyone knows my theory on remakes. Movies are going to get remade.
Yeah.
That's how Hollywood is, especially now with Jason Blunt. And there's going to be a lot of remakes that a lot of people didn't think they were going to remake, but they remade Child's Play, and we all know The Exorcist is not actually getting a remake; it's getting a sequel.
Yep, like Halloween, like Halloween 2018, basically. Yeah.
Like Halloween 2018. But I don't know what the filmmakers are trying to do here when it comes to this particular version of Fog. Film-wise, it looks fantastic.
Yeah,
Shot very well. Some of the scenes on the boat look very, very well. It's spooky moments at times, but again, where the scare? It's not that it's not creepy enough, and I don't expect them to create what John Carpenter did with the original.
Right.
But
I expected something a little better, and I was, wow, this is it.
This was like the movie that really forced us to make this positive spin series. This was like the movie we kept hearing was so awful. People would talk about it when we used to do the Slash Bros streams. That it would come up a lot. The Fog remake is the worst remake ever. People would just always say this.
Yep.
So it was this thing that we used to talk about back and forth, and that's kind of what eventually convinced us that we got to do a series where we talk about positives about movies. And we were both like, the first movie we have to do is the Fog remake, because nobody says anything good about that movie. People talk about it as if it's like the worst horror movie ever made. So that would be the perfect start to the series.
Yep. And to answer your question, Monty, I think what they were trying to do, and this kind of involves not the Black Christmas 2019, but the Black Christmas 2006, where they tried to expand on the backstory a little bit, because you saw a lot more of the ship. You saw a lot more of what happened between them and the townspeople. Like, you got this story in John Carpenter's The Fog, but you only got it verbally.
Yes.
You didn't get to see what happened. So I think what they were trying to add that was new to the overall film itself was pretty much the backstory. And I will say this, what they couldn't do on film in John Carpenter's The Fog, with the actual fog being, practical effects, it wasn't digitized or anything like that. They were able to build a lot better suspense with the digitized fog.
Yeah.
Like, where it's coming at you and you're like right there, but you get in the house just in time.
You feel like you're surrounded by it.
Yeah. Where Michael chases Laurie into the house, and just at the nick of time she gets in.
Yeah.
They played a lot on that, and I kind of like that suspense, because what do you have if you have a PG-13 film? I mean, you're going to cut out a lot. You're not going to have nudity. That's one thing you gotta get rid of right there, pretty much.
Yeah, you got it. Other than
No
what is
blood.
it? Other than seeing Megan Grace in her undies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do something. You have to do something to spice the audience or to get them involved in the film. So you use the digitized fog in order to build suspense.
I feel like the remake was even more about the story, whereas the
Yeah.
original was so much atmosphere. I mean, the original Fog is like one of my favorite atmospheric movies. You know, it's up there with the original Wolfman for me of the most atmospheric movies
Yes.
ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of what they were going for. And if I'm being honest, I had watched The Fog when it first came out. And I wasn't a huge fan, but I didn't dislike it.
Right. I
So
felt the same way.
it wasn't until we did it for Positive Spin that I watched it again. And again, you know, watching the movie together and doing it with the intent of finding positives, it definitely helped the experience for me. I was like, okay, I remember not liking this too much, but I do like this about it, and I do like this about it, and I do like this about it. And by the time we were done, I was like, you know what, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a more enjoyable viewing experience doing it for Positive Spin. You know, it's not one of my favorites that we've watched for Positive Spin,
Right.
but I definitely don't dislike it as much as other people do.
You got that right.
Yeah.
Poor Selma Blair, man. Seeing what happened to her.
No, but I thought she did okay as Stevie. I wasn't expecting Adrienne Barbeau because that's Adrienne Barbeau.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to top her, but she did. She did okay as what she did for Stevie.
Now, if someone goes and tries to be Adrienne Barbeau in Swamp Thing, you know, I'd like to see that.
Especially the uncut version.
Especially
right?
the uncut version.
It's sort of like the remake of the Wolfman. I actually thought they did a pretty good job as some of the practical effects. It's just that I did not. I would prefer they did actual real transformation scenes instead of a CGI.
Yeah. We have so the Wolfman that's coming up in Positive Spin in June.
Yeah.
So we got that one coming up.
I actually really like that movie. But when you find out the circumstances behind it, because I mean they had Baker doing the effects.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have anybody better doing the effects than that? And you don't have a transformation scene?
Yeah.
No,
but when you know that they slashed the budget and they were supposed to have this much money to work with, and now they didn't, and all in all, for what came out, I thought it was a pretty well done film.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and when you're remaking a movie like The Wolfman again, it's like a psycho sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're remaking such a classic. It's going to be tough. So you got to do something that stands out. And I think they did a good enough job where, it wasn't awful. I don't feel that way. I mean, I know some people do.
It wasn't a bad film.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the aspects of it. And like I said, the practical effects, most of the practical effects were decent. I mean, I loved seeing the Wolfman running around London. I thought those scenes were great. I thought they did a fantastic job. That's where the actual practical effects and the makeup effects really did a good job. And how he runs around and kills the people like that. But it's just the transformation scenes for me. It's like, come on, man, you could come on now. If The Howling and an American Werewolf in London those products still work in today's. You can do practical.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame of what could have been. But that's also a really divisive film because a lot of people, they don't hate the extended version. They hate the theatrical version.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. So that's another thing we try to do when we watch these Positive Spin videos, movies, we try to watch the version that people would have either seen in the theater that they claim to hate and all that, as opposed to versions that they might not have seen, like extended versions or director's cuts and whatnot. Because many times the director's cuts are different versions of a film. Sometimes they have a completely different ending or added scenes that do make the movie better.
Yep.
So for the most part, we try to watch the versions of the film that most people would have seen.
Yeah. And at that time, I'd actually never seen the theatrical version of The Wolfman because I'd only ever watched the extended director's cut.
Yeah.
So it was an experience for me as well. Probably Joe too.
Yeah, that was the first time I had to watch the theatrical because I had never seen the unrated.
Yeah, because both whatchamacallit and Anthony Hopkins, they were both pretty good in the film.
Yeah, Benicio del Toro was really good in it.
Yeah, he was good in this film too.
Another thing,
I just couldn't see him being Lawrence Talbot though, but eventually he ended up winning me over as Lawrence Talbot.
I was going to say he does because then when you really look at him, I was like, I can see it. I can understand why he was cast in the role. Another thing that we do with these positive spin videos is, even though we're only discussing the positives in our videos, Jason and I usually like to specifically look for the negatives that other people talk about to see where they're coming from, to see if we agree, to see if we notice the same thing. And I'll say, there's plenty of times we're like, okay, I can understand that. Yeah. But there's also plenty of times where we're like, yeah, I just don't get that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been plenty of times when it's like stuff that's not even accurate. Like people are saying there's certain things in movies, and it's like that's not even true. It's almost like people see things one time and they remember it incorrectly.
Yeah.
And a big one right here, and I know a lot of people don't like the movie, and that's fine. Like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. People talk about the white horse as if it's through the entire movie. And it is literally one time at the beginning and one time at the end. It may have 30-second screen time in a 2-hour movie. The white horse does not appear anywhere else throughout the movie except for those 2 scenes. But when people talk about it, they make it sound like it's so distracting throughout the entire film, and it's not even there.
Because that's one thing because that's one thing I didn't like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is because of that goddamn white horse. Because I didn't because I didn't know what that white horse represented. It didn't make kind of sense to me. So I rewatched it again, and I kind of get what it represents now. No, and you're right. It's really only in 2 scenes because it has to do something with Michael's mother gave him the horse when he was still in the hospital, and somehow we get to see that reflection now that Marion has seen the white horse again too. Maybe I still don't know what that represents as far as Michael and Laurie is concerned. When it comes to that white horse, that's the only thing I have. But I have a little more appreciation with Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 than I did before.
And there's that opening scene that literally has a definition of what the white, because I think a lot of people too think like Rob Zombie made it up, and he didn't. This is an actual thing in psychology of what the white horse represents. It's fine that people don't like it. That's cool if they don't like the direction that he took. But a lot of people give him a lot of grief for including it as if he made this concept up when it's an actual concept that exists in psychology. So he puts that up there in that opening screen, and I even put it up there on my positive spin video. That's how I opened my positive spin video, with that screen, to just talk about what the white horse represents.
Case in point.
But that's the point. Is like, when I watched it the first time, hearing everybody talk about it over the years, how much the white horse is in the movie, I was like, geez, it must be in there a lot. And then when we're watching it, I'm like, where the hell is the white horse? Like, it's not even in the movie though. It's like I said, it's like 30 seconds of screen time total. So it's just funny how people's minds work that way.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming anybody for, it's just a natural thing that happens. But it's funny how your mind creates these like extra scenes or something because it's something that you don't like.
Yeah, I guess the same thing.
Yeah, it's mainly because it's like when movie starts, next thing you know, you've seen this white horse, and I know it's because I studied psychology and abnormal psychology when I was in college, so I know what I know what the white horse represents as far as psychology is concerned. But to me, it's like, what's he doing with a white horse in this movie? And he leads off with that, and it's like, okay, because I'm thinking this is going to make sense. This is, and it didn't.
Well, and in his defense, I'll say this too. I think if he hadn't let off with it, I think people would have been even more confused. People would have been like, why is this white horse now just showing up? At least he made the attempt to say, okay, listen. Expect the white horse, because the first thing you see is the definition of it. So it's like he was trying to warn people. I mean, imagine watching the movie and then like the last 5 minutes the horse shows up and not seeing it through the rest of it. People would have been like, what the hell is this? So it's just interesting,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Zombie. I think he has an idea of what type of movie he wants. That's why I was very cautious when he said he was going to make the monsters, and I said, well, this maybe Rob Zombie actually showed he can make a horror movie about with the white trash premise that he seems to have throughout all his movies,
Yeah.
and actually show a movie where people don't say the F bomb almost every time when they're on the screen. And and to me, like I said, he did succeed in some aspects of the monsters, But I give him credit for at least trying to attempt to do something a little different from what we've seen from all of his films.
Yeah.
Well, he's a lifelong fan of the Munsters as well.
Yeah.
He actually did a commentary for Munsters Go Home on the Scream Factory version.
Brad brings up Lords of Salem, and I'll say probably up to this point, of the videos that have gone live so far, I think for me, the Lords of Salem is the favorite movie we've done for Positive Spin.
Yeah,
I think
I've still not seen that. I've been trying to see that film, and still haven't seen it yet.
That to me is honestly, I think that's his best film.
Yeah, me too.
That's
a tough one too because we both like the Munsters so much.
Yeah, but for different ways. I mean, the Lords of Salem is such a dark, gritty horror film. And the Munsters is like this family-friendly, let's have fun and just have, be entertained kind of movie. So, again, opposite ends of the spectrum. Same thing with, Sherry Moon Zombie, like we mentioned earlier. Sherry Moon Zombie in The Lords of Salem is her deepest, darkest role.
Yeah.
And then you have her in the Munsters, and she's like upbeat and, playing Lily Munster. So it's pretty cool. Plus, you get a good look at Sherry in The Lords of Salem, so I don't mind that either.
There's another movie y'all guys have to do because I don't know if y'all seen Tom Cruise's The Mummy.
Yes.
Yeah. We got that coming in June too for Positive Spin.
Good.
Yep.
My biggest problem.
We got that one coming.
How did you feel about that movie, Monty?
Just like Tom Cruise was miscast in War of the Worlds, he was miscast in this film right here. I don't know. It's because we're so used to him being Ethan in the Mission Impossible films that we can't see him in other films. I haven't seen Top Gun, so I haven't really can't say. I mean, I saw the original Top Gun way back in the past. I really wasn't a big Tom Cruise fan, and I just saw it. It was okay. I see a lot of people love Tom Cruise Maverick because of the effects.
It's great.
Yeah, because of the effects, and that's what that's a movie he's done before, and he seems to fit right in, like that. But when it came to The Mummy, miscast because it's all you're seeing is Mission Impossible, and that's it. There were some creepy scenes in the film, and I'll give the director for trying to make it look creepy. But to me, it was like they were trying to do too much of Brandon Fraser's The Mummy.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think I mentioned this in my video, the Positive Spin, when it comes up. I think I said it is kind of like a hybrid of like Brendan Fraser's The Mummy and then like a Universal Mummy movie because it was intended to be the start to that dark universe.
Yeah.
And that was another problem. And I think this is the problem when it comes to superhero movies. As I know you're not a superhero movie fan. I don't know if you've seen any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Joe.
I've seen some of them. I'm not a huge fan. I'm more of a DC fan, I think, to be honest.
And the problem with DC is the fact that they didn't actually create the first movie prior to announcing that they were going to start a universe.
Yeah. And
that was the problem with Dark Universe. You see all these Easter eggs of other monster films, and then you have the only best part of The Mummy was Russell Crowe's Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah, that was great.
That was awesome.
That was the best part of the whole movie was him because he did a good job playing, Dr. Jekyll, and then when he becomes Mr. Hyde. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
But instead of just focusing on the story itself and then building that story up and building those characters up, and then later on going ahead and just drop a little post-credit scene. I mean, that's the reason why Iron Man works so well, because you only saw what's Brad talking about? DC. Except for that dumb joke. Now, there are some movies I like and what DC has done, but when it comes, like I said, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the reason why it works so well is because of you started with Iron Man, and it was just simply about Iron Man. It wasn't until Samuel L. Jackson comes up, and next you know, he says, well, I want to introduce the Avengers initiative. Well, audience is gassed.
Yeah.
With the gas, and that just started it right there. And then you just focus on the Iron Man, then came Captain America and Thor. You build up your characters, and bam, you have the Avengers, and that's how the Marvel Cinematic Universe took off. But unfortunately, movie studios are just so quick because they want to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
the cash. You don't even try to, and that was the whole problem with Universal's Dark Universe, because they're like, Dark Universe. Can you get a story first and make it be good and make it be great and focus on that character and then surprises at the end? They should never announce the Dark Universe. They should have just waited until after the movie's end, have a post credit scene, and then put the Dark Universe up.
Yeah, it was definitely ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The problem is that I want to see it expand, because I wanted to see Russell Crowe more as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I wanted to see this stuff, come to life, and unfortunately we didn't get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, there's some movies I like so far. I mean, did you like I think you didn't like Joaquin Phoenix Joker?
I did.
I loved it. Brad didn't like it.
Oh.
Yeah, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Me too.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. It's the first time that we actually get to see the Joker character. That's they need to run.
Yeah. So I think we're announcing this like next week anyway, Jason. So for May, what we're doing in May, so I have a video coming up next week, so I'm just going to say it now for anybody who's here. That's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in May, where Jason and we did Monster Mayhem. So we review 31 Universal monster movies all through the month of May. So every day is a Universal monster review.
Yeah.
And what we did is, to tie it in, in June, all of our positive spins are Universal monster movie remakes, which is why we have The Mummy and The Wolfman and Dracula Untold and Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
So those are going to be our positive spins in June to tie into our Monster Mayhem.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah.
Plus a few more surprises in June.
Yeah.
That has to do with the original monsters.
Yeah. Because like I said before, it to me, like I said, if they had somebody else in Tom Cruise's role, it might have worked, maybe. But there's just some roles that some actors can't be in, and you can't just cast a person just because there's star power. There's a star power, and and I know that their first instinct is to make money, because that's basically why you cast. But sometimes you do that, and the movie fails because the star is miscast. As Frankenstein remake,
based off a graphic novel, Brad.
Yeah,
it's based off a graphic novel.
But the graphic novel is based off of Frankenstein, so it's kind of like a remake of a remake.
Yeah. I actually kind of liked I, Frankenstein, mainly because of Bill Nighy, because everything he does is almost good when he's in these films. It's sort of like a different version of Victor from the Underworld series.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're gonna learn a lot more about that
in the video
when you watch the I, Frankenstein, because I learned a lot of things that I didn't know about it. And I was very surprised. I guess I should say I was very surprised. But
I think it's more as an adaptation of the novel.
A reinterpretation. No, it actually pretty much goes exactly the way the original novel does.
Mm-hmm.
It just tells what happens after, when he is let off into the snow and Frankenstein is after him, and it kind of picks up even years after that. So,
sort of like an expanded version after the novel.
Yeah. So it's an interesting story. It's one of those movies where they shove a lot down your throat in the beginning, and expect you to remember it. It's like, okay, well, here's the time and place, but no, it's not that time and place. Now it's later on than that. Now we're set. So it kind of gives you something to grab onto.
Yeah, it
kind of takes you forward.
It kind of reminded me of how the Underworld franchise and how that mythology is set up, and they tried to do the same thing.
You'll like our videos. You'll learn a lot
in this video. So, like I said before, if you haven't seen it, just check it out. You might be a bit confused, but that's the reason why you have to pay attention, listen to what they're saying, in order to get an understanding what's happening.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's going to be one movie at first, and then it's like it completely shifts gears, and it's like, okay, now this is what it's going to be.
Yeah,
I like that it does that.
It's a fun movie. I mean, it's not anything great. It was just a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's entertaining, and that's one of the things that we go for is entertainment.
Y'all didn't do Van Helsing, did y'all?
We have talked about that one because that is one that was actually loved when it first came out, and then people just started hating on it.
I mean, it still has a 6.6 rating. I mean, it's not like it's terribly low. It's still
the CGI did not age well.
Yeah,
no,
because I watched it on television. We haven't watched it for Positive Spin yet, but I watched it on television probably a month ago, and I was like, wow, these are pretty bad. I mean, not the movie, but the CGI effects.
Yeah.
Some of it's pretty rough.
And that's one of the knocks I have against Stephen Sommers is that he relies too heavily on CGI at times. Some of his films I loved. Obviously, Deep Rising is one of my favorite creature feature films.
Yeah. Good movie.
Love the Mummy series. Van Helsing, it was okay. There's some parts I like. I didn't like the actor who played Dracula.
You mean when he's walking up the wall and then
when he was walking, he's walking up the walls and
giving his monologue. I was like, oh, come on, man.
Nope, no problem against Hugh Jackman, and I love the actor who played the priest. But the friar,
the friar was cool.
Yeah, I thought
Beckinsale was good in it too. And overall, if you can take it like a character movie, it's fun. Yeah. But then they add all that other stuff into it to kind of spice it. Yeah, I even like the Frankenstein bit and the Jekyll and Hyde bit in it. I thought it was cool. That's probably what you're talking about what they should have done with the Dark Universe. Brought it in a little bit at a time. And then, maybe it would have worked. I don't know.
Well, that's not surprising. Now that Fraser got an Oscar, so I'm not surprised he's doing the Mummy 4.
People have been wanting the Mummy 4 forever, though. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, people love those movies, and rightfully so. I mean, those are fun movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even the third one, the Mummy, even though there's
Say what you just said again. Say what you just said.
I said even the third one.
There you go.
Even the third one, which is to me it's the weakest of the Mummy series, but it's still good.
I like Jet Li though.
Jet Li, and Michelle Yeoh. I mean,
that's another one on our list that for Positive Spin at some point.
The
Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna be doing that one.
We'll be doing that at some point. And that's the thing. That's the thing with Positive Spin. As much as we hate when people trash things, it gives us so many different possibilities for this series because there are so many movies that get so much hate that we can do this series for years and never run out of titles.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
that is true.
Before we did that, the one last thing I want to talk about is obviously Exorcist 2: The Heretic. Because when I was doing Night and the Deadly Venoms, and one of the funniest moments that we had was when Night talked about Exorcist 2, and I just slugged my head to the side, and everyone cracked up laughing. So they asked me to go on ahead and do a review of Exorcist 2, and I said, "Okay, I'll do it. I'll watch this god awful movie again." Hey, Katie.
Hey, Katie.
Hey.
I actually really like The Exorcist 2, and I like it.
For Jason and I think you said this too, Jason. We had seen it long before we watched it for Positive Spin.
Yeah.
And we really weren't huge fans of it from what we remembered. And then when we watched it again, we found a new appreciation for it. We did a lot of research, on these movies too. We kind of looked the backstories of, things that the writers have said, the directors have said, and all that. And as we were watching it, we kind of understood why we didn't like it back then.
Mhm.
I think it's slow, in areas, but
It's
I
different.
I enjoyed it a lot more now than I did when I was younger, for sure.
And for me, it's like this: when you have a movie as popular and as frightening and as
That's it
incredible,
right there. That's it right there.
when you have a movie such as frightening, as incredible, and as
Yep.
successful as The Exorcist was when it came out during '73, and you follow up with this.
Well, okay. Well, see, that's the difference. You follow up with this, trying to make anything comparable to The Exorcist is an act of futility.
Well, it's like TCM too. It's like this
Yeah.
why Toby Hooper made it so different in tone, because he knew he couldn't
Mm.
compare to the original Texas
Right.
Chainsaw Massacre.
So you take it in a different direction and you start telling a different part of the same story in a way.
Mhm.
You start telling about the aftermath and stuff like that. And if you really get into the mythology of the film and what the director was going to see, I would almost guarantee you would see it in a different light.
I remember
Mm.
John Borman's quote. The director said, people don't like it because it's too good. And by that, he didn't mean like as an objectively good movie. He meant because it focuses more on the good than the evil.
Yeah.
People were so scared by the evil in The Exorcist, and he
Mhm.
chose to tell the opposite side of it. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
how can good triumph in this one? And I love that quote because it comes across as he's being like this,
Arrogant.
being
Yeah.
arrogant,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's not how he meant it. He meant that he literally, people don't like it because it's focused on the good rather than the bad.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. It was a
Yeah,
bold
me too.
statement.
Yeah, because I got his gist when I was researching the film, and I heard what he said, and the
Mhm.
fact that I said was, at first I thought he was being arrogant, but then when I
Yeah.
looked at that, he was trying to say, okay, well, we're going to focus on Reagan's character,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know. And I think a lot of people also didn't like that they actually named the demon Pazuzu.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they used to prefer just to have him just some type of a demon that possessed her, but now no, we're going to call him Pazuzu. I think a lot of people didn't like that as well.
Yeah.
But for me, one of the biggest problems I have with the film again is like when the flies are flying throughout the scene, and we know that it's just some fly on the stick, and they're just moving the camera around, making him think he's traveling all over the place.
One thing that's really effective from that movie for me though are the tribal scenes, and
Yes.
even
James Earl
when
Jones is great in that.
yeah, even when I wasn't a huge fan when I was younger, those were the
Mhm.
scenes that kept me watching.
Yeah.
I think those were done really well. Those were definitely effective. There's something scary about that, about what other cultures believe, and
Yep.
Mhm.
voodoo and that sort of thing, and like same way the serpent and the rainbow is scary to me. It's like because to certain people these things are realities, and they've seen
Yeah.
this stuff happen. So those are the scenes that held my attention in The Exorcist 2 for sure.
I don't know why people don't talk about that's a decent horror film.
Yeah,
It's I think it's probably his most underrated film.
I agree. Serpent and the
Hmm.
Rainbow for sure.
Yeah. Definitely his
Yeah.
most underrated film.
It
It
definitely
is
is.
downright frightening in some spots.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
yeah, but yeah, it's to me it's like that because, and I think when you compare that to The Exorcist 3, and for me, it's like I always consider The Exorcist the true sequel to The Exorcist.
And
yeah.
and
So
it, and
does,
it was meant
so
and it
does,
was meant to be exactly.
yeah.
Mhm.
So does the writer
Yep.
as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which
And
is why he
don't
which is
get
why
me
he directed
wrong,
it himself.
Joe and I
Exactly.
love
Exorcist
love
3.
Legion.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, we
Exorcist
love
3.
Legion. It's a fantastic film. I still think, even though that movie's gotten love in the past 20 years,
Mhm.
it's still an underrated film.
Without a doubt. Because like we
It
said
is that,
earlier,
yeah.
it has one of the all-time greatest jump scenes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that Black Christmas ripped off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like that, and the lipstick demon from Insidious is
Yeah,
one of my favorite
Yep.
jump scares of all time.
yeah.
All right, gentlemen, I think that we'll cover it all today. Really appreciate you what you've done in this awesome series that you have created. And I'm very looking forward to what you'll have in store for us for positive spin. And normally, what I do on my live streams, I also will give you a chance to shrill what's coming up else on your channel. So, Joe, you go first. What's coming up on the Horror Man?
Really just focusing on these series. Now that we have the controversial view, which is the positive spin-off series.
Mhm.
Instead of doing positive reviews of movies, we're talking about controversial movies. That
Oh
people
yeah, yeah. I
Twilight.
meant to actually talk about that. Yeah.
That
Hey,
was a good one for that Valentine's Day weekend. We
yeah,
planned
yeah,
that
it
one
was.
ahead. We were like, we got to do a nice romance movie for Valentine's Day.
And I will say to this day, I don't care what people think. I'm not a big fan of the sequels, but I do like the original Twilight.
Same here.
I think it's a classic
The
film.
the only thing I would say about Twilight, and
I know.
I said, and Stephanie, like I said before, the books are not made for people like me. They're
Yeah.
for
Right.
that's for preteens and adolescent teens and teenage
Right.
girls.
Right.
That's the audience she was
And
gearing
that's where my daughter was at that time. That's why I have a lot of nostalgia for that film.
And I did like some of the parts in the
Mhm.
original film. Vampires don't sparkle.
I'll let you have that one, Monty. Even though I disagree. I disagree.
I
yeah,
mean,
so,
I get it.
If that's the type of world that she creates for her vampires,
Exactly.
exactly.
that's for, like I said. But being a huge vampire fan myself, vampires don't sparkle. Yeah, but we'll leave it at that because everyone knows. I mean, it's like this, and I don't know what happened after Twilight and why it went the direction it went in. Maybe because
Money.
yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, but but everyone
No,
loves Harry.
they were big money makers. That's why I think a lot of them got rushed to be put out while the craze was, big.
And again, just like anything else, in the positive spins, we're talking about what we like about the movie. So,
Right.
with Twilight, we found a lot of positives. I mean, that was one of
Yeah.
my longer videos just because, and again, I feel like people think, oh, this probably isn't for me, so they don't really give it a chance. And I really do feel like that's one of those movies that suffers from word of mouth.
Yeah.
Other horror fans saying, oh, there's always like that meme, like, oh, still a better love story than Twilight, which it's like, okay, but have you actually seen Twilight? Because it's really not a bad film. It's not a bad film. Like there may be things there may be things people don't like about it, but it doesn't make it a bad film.
So. Brad cracking me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brad feels a certain way about Twilight.
I know.
That's what he always says to me too. He was like, "Vampires don't sparkle." Like, all right, whatever.
But
hey, it's your universe. If you want them to sparkle, that's fine by me. That's how you want your universe for vampires to be. Hey, look
at Dracula, Prince of Darkness. He got killed by water, so
and that's funny too because when I first saw that, me and my brother cracked laughing.
Like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't know you could kill vampires by drowning them.
No, it was them touching water. I was like, wait a minute. The earth is covered with was it 3/4 of water? No wonder vampires are extinct.
But yeah, so I do want to promote that, the controversial view which started earlier this week. Positive spin-off series. Jason and I talk about movies that other people don't really want to talk about for whatever reason. Because of certain controversies, that surround them. I think it's going to be a fun series. We already have a lot of them filmed and ready to go.
That's good.
We talk about some extreme movies, some movies that may not even people don't even realize are controversial.
Right.
I really do think that's going to be a fun series.
Will Caligula be one of your films?
Yep.
That will definitely be coming up. Absolutely.
Not to extend it, but this is a funny story. When that film first came out, and I was in high school, and I think one of my coworkers, not coworkers, one of the somebody told me about the film and what was in it. I was like, wow. And then my mother went to go see it.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh yeah, and my mother's very modest. Oh man! I said because I came home and she put a note on. She went to go see. She was going to see Caligula. I said no. You want to talk about? You want to talk about embarrassed? Oh man, my mother was so
man.
embarrassed, and I couldn't warn her. I couldn't warn her. I said, "Mom, I would have told her." I said, "Mom, we don't want to see Caligula."
Yeah.
No.
We do have Salo coming up fairly soon,
Yeah.
which is a big one. And I will say, as extreme as these films are, we have a really special, controversial view movie that will be coming up eventually. We're gonna kind of build it up for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily the most extreme type movie, but it's definitely one of the most controversial movies.
Ever.
And it's also infamous for another reason. But that's all I'm going to say about that. It's a big deal, and we're definitely going to build up to that one during controversial view.
Yep.
So iPhone saying I have not watched it. Brad, you don't want to watch that film.
What, Salo?
Yeah, Salo.
Yeah, Salo's rough.
Brad, which version do you have? Send me a picture of it. I'd love to see which edition you have.
I'll tell you that when you see it, Brad, you might not want to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't eat. Don't eat anything. If you eat it before you eat it and you see it, you know, trust me, that's the most warning I give you when it comes to that movie.
It's
Nothing grossed me out. That movie comes pretty close.
It's like Sleepaway Camp. Eat shit and die, Ricky. Eat shit and live, Bill. Well, they did.
Yeah, they did.
They certainly did.
Yeah, pink flamingos. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right, gentlemen, I want to thank you all for coming on, and
thank you, Monty.
Thank you for having us.
Great, awesome series that y'all guys have created, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys coming up next. What's going to happen? I think next week we'll have the Horror Hangout live stream. We're coming up on Sean's channel. This time we'll be talking about novels. Horror novels that have been made into movies. You know, obviously, what are the best ones? What are the worst ones? Obviously, what's their favorite Stephen King horror novel adaptation? What's the worst ones? Or even novels from comic books. Yeah, turning novels. And what type of novels, horror novels, that we would like to see turned into movies.
I hope Twilight is in that discussion.
It probably will be, because I'm pretty sure if Christian's back from Texas, and I don't know if he's seen any of the Twilight films, he'll probably have a good rant about that one.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for coming on. Everyone in the chat, want to thank you for coming by, and always remember that horror rules. All right, guys, well, stay safe and good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.